All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Rouse. I'm your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements at the beginning of each meeting. We will do some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. And first off is our mission. We're here to help foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. Our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to create and grow their businesses from the ground up. Susan.
So there are many different ways that you can get in touch with us and stay in touch. We have our website, we have HBAP website, we have our YouTube where everything is posted as long as the presenters have given us permission. We have a newsletter. If you haven't signed up for it yet, please do. And Todd's going to be, if he hasn't already, put it into the chat. For those in HBAP or graduated from HBAP, we have our own Slack channel as well. And then as always, bring a guest, anybody you think would love this community as much as we all do. And then just a reminder that unless otherwise specified, we are posting recordings publicly, but presenters do get the right to say yay or nay before we do that. And then we've got some really cool stuff coming up, but starting with today, we have Ravi for the second time. And we're now calling it his next gen, and hopefully it isn't his last gen, talking about his newest book. And then next week, we have Christy Jenkins, who you've heard us talk about a lot. So she's a former professional athlete in top 10 in 3 different sports, which I think is incredible. She's a co-founder of a football club. She's a VC investor and a partner, and she speaks and writes about the athlete's mindset and how that applies to being successful in whatever you do, your business, your life. So she'll be coming next week to talk about her lessons learned and share with us her perspective. And then July 3rd is social, and then July 10th is our own page is going to lead a discussion of the thorny topic of AI in education. How should we be thinking about this? What's right? What's wrong? And she would love it if other people are interested in helping lead that discussion, just let Paige know, and we'll have a very rousing discussion about the whole topic of how to use AI in education. And then July 17th, Nitsan Shah, who is the CEO and co-founder of Wevo.ai, which is another really cool platform. It's a user research platform that leverages AI, of course, to deliver reliable insights in a fraction of the time that we normally have to use to get UX and user perspectives. And then on the 24th, our own Pedro David Espinoza has written another book, a super cool one on what's the ROI on inclusion and why DEI is so important to business performance. And his book includes interviews with a whole bunch of very famous CEOs, including Michael Dell and John Hennessy and Monica Lozano, who's on the board of Apple, and talking about, how are they thinking about DEI and what are they doing for inclusion in their companies. So lots of good stuff coming up. And then in the spirit of our group of inclusion and openness and collaboration, just a reminder that all rights are reserved by the presenter. We follow our honor code, of course, and we follow the modified Francis Fry feedback, which is really just don't give negative feedback. It's a bummer and it's not helpful at all. So just give positive feedback. And then just a reminder that no personal recordings, no otters, no anything to our program, because we want to preserve the rights of the presenters and they get to decide how stuff is used. And then, as always, if you have something you want to talk about in startups, let Todd, me, or Ashley know. Or if you've got a conflict of interest, just let us know and we will totally help you figure it out. All right, Todd, back to you.
All right, let's do some social breakout rooms. I think I got this working. I will see you all in about 5-6 minutes. Let me pause the recording while everyone's having fun. Recording. Everyone should be joining in 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a good time in your breakout rooms. Just a little reminder, please, when you leave Zoom this evening, at the end of the evening, you'll get a little pop-up survey. Remember, filling out surveys saves lives, so please fill out that survey. It's kind of like winning the lottery. It makes your car run better. You know, it turns your enemies into friends. It even teaches your dog to do your taxes. Okay, Cardam. So we're data analytics people. We love the data. It's like a DJ without music, a painter without a canvas, or like a magician without a rabbit or something. So please fill out that survey. And after we're done, we will stop recording. We will be hanging out for some overtime. The recording will be published on our YouTube channel. So please keep that in mind. And again, stick around for some overtime. Now, first, I also want to thank Kelly Kimball for originally inviting our next guest to HBAP Startups. And it is my honor to introduce Ravi Sawhney. Ravi has spent more than 40 years at the forefront of product and technology innovation. He's a serial entrepreneur, business leader, author, lecturer, and thought leader on design and innovation. He's also frequently asked to be an expert witness on matters of design, innovation, and competition. He's the founder and CEO of RKS Design, a 40-year-old design and innovation firm that has developed solutions for clients in diverse industries, incubated companies, created licensed products, assembled a high-caliber team of colleagues, and accumulated accolades from the media and numerous design juries. As the founder of DNA Guitar Gear, Ravi created various accessories that provide peace of mind to musicians around the world that rely on keeping their instruments safe and secure so that their guitars don't fall over. DNA accessories are used at all major events around the world, including the Grammys, the Academy Awards, the Golden Globes, and Coachella. And also as founder of RKS Guitars. He worked with world-famous guitarist Dave Mason from Traffic to create the world's first sustainable electric guitar. And RKS guitars are played by some of the leading musicians around the world. Ravi is also the inventor of the Psycho-Aesthetics design methodology, which Harvard Business Press has explored as a business school case study. He's also been inducted as a fellow in the Industrial Design Society of America and recognized with an honorary PhD from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. He's spoken globally at dozens of conferences as a keynote speaker and lecturer in various design and business schools. And now, without further ado, is our custom here at HBAP Startups, if we could all please briefly unmute ourselves, and let's give a warm round of applause to Ravi Sawhney. Ravi, thank you so much for joining us. It is an honor for you to come for a second round and talk to us. And you're muted. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. I could have spent an hour talking to myself.
I wouldn't let that happen.
That would be interesting. So yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I put out a new book. Took a year and a half to do, and it answers the question about how do you apply the methodology to anything other than product or things in addition to product design. Which was really very interesting how things worked out. This methodology, originally the kernel of it, or the inspiration of it, came out of my work at Xerox in the 70s. So working on the first touchscreen interface, team of PhD psychologists, 200 programmers, all kinds of technologists as we developed the first touchscreen. And I was challenged to do the actual graphical user interface, which was not easy because people wouldn't touch a TV screen. It was completely foreign. You only learned don't leave fingerprints on the TV and stay 5 feet away from the screen at that time. And so now we had such advanced technology at Xerox that we had to figure out a way to make an interactive control panel. And that's where really I learned that design is the tool, but the human experience is really what you're creating. And ultimately, still true today is that challenge is how do you motivate someone to do something for themselves they might otherwise not do? Whether it's adopting a new app, a new interface, a new anything in your life. We all crave doing new things and becoming more than we were. But how do you motivate someone to do that? So, it's complex, it's difficult, but there's a methodology, and that's what I'm going to share. So there may be mistakes in this presentation because I built it over the last few days. And so can everyone see the screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so I with a little help of chat, I named it Revolutionary Design and Innovation, Unleashing Disruption with a Proven Methodology. It's kind of interesting to me because people ask me what's the one thing you've done that you're most proud of. It's probably creating a methodology that can be shared and used, and that is that's really proven. So I won't read much of this to you. These are excerpts from the book in places, and then there's slides from other presentations, and I've thrown this together. But really, it's interesting because Psycho-Aesthetics works two ways. One is that for designers and creatives, it bridges the gap between them or me and someone who's coming from strictly a business perspective. For business stakeholders, you get to see things in a way through the eyes of the designer, and it breaks down that barrier. I think when I've seen or heard from people who have been frustrated with design, that's typical where the designers say, "I'm the designer, I know what's best." That's not true. It has to be collaborative. It has to be able to really bridge the two of them. We all need to work together. And, the designers and the creatives don't have a monopoly on creativity or being innovative. We have the responsibility to bring that out in others. And so, that's a very important aspect. That how do you bridge things? From one of my prior books, my business book called Predictable Magic. I always love this. Today, most industries find themselves competing on design. Importance of creating emotional connections comes as no surprise for business leaders engaged in strategy, innovation, and design processes. Design resonates emotionally, but observing this phenomenon is much easier than creating it. Pretty profound statement by Deepa Prahlad and I. Her father, CK, worked extensively with us on the book. If you know who CK Prahlad was, he passed away maybe 5-6 years ago. Brilliant person. This is these are kind of the essence. You'll see some essence statements. So in 1982, I really, I started the firm in 1980. So, quite some time ago. I started working in design actually 49 years ago when I was in college. But I wanted to create an underpinning that would really, just kind of nail it. And what I said was that it's not how you feel about a designer experience, it's how it makes you feel about yourself. Many of us probably know Maya Angelou, said, people forget what you said, people will forget what you did, they'll never forget how you made them feel. This is 1982. I wanted to have a firm that was human-centric because coming out of Xerox, it was kind of, woven into my DNA. At the time, it was really, people kind of, thought I was a little nuts, but that's okay. So, where do we use human-centered design today? So, of course, we use it in product design. We use it in all kinds of product design and innovation. And that goes from, in times you're just skinning a product, people come to you with a technology, but you still need to have an underlying understanding and methodology. Sometimes people come to us with a competitive landscape and ask us to design a product. Sometimes they come to us with a product and they say we need the next generation. So they're forcing obsolescence of the current product line, doing it for themselves before someone does it for them or to them. It's used in user experience, which is basically an underlying need. And it's interesting, we're working with, in some cases, with technologists, and we get labeled, oh, you're the industrial designers, you'll figure out what it looks like. It's like, actually, what we do is we figure out what is the user experience. Everything from if it's a connected device to the app, to the interface, to how you physically may interact with it. Every touch point goes into the user experience. It is true that the history of industrial design, back to the Raymond Loewy days, and probably even to where I started out of college, the industrial designers were really kind of the looks guys. They were the people who put the window dressing on a product or device. You use it in business design because you can really analyze, business landscapes and identify the white space. In business design, you identify all the attributes, the competitive landscapes, and you really navigate where to go and how to go there. Public policy, we haven't been involved with this. Kelly knows a bit about this, I heard. Policy is another area that I think we'll be more and more involved with, because it is the same user experience that we all crave, that and probably complain about in terms of public policy. And of course, services is another area that we work in extensively. Again, I may go back and forth between we, because it's all a team effort with my team and those we work with. So, excuse me if I bounce between I and we. And then where have we used it? So in the book, what I did was pull different cases, and then we're showing different applications of the methodology, by mixing it up. So RKS Guitars, yes, is something that we incubated as a passion product. Next thing you know, we had funding and we had rock and roll heroes. Eric Clapton plays one of our guitars, the Rolling Stones, the Who, the Eagles. The list is pretty phenomenal. And these are people who can play any guitar they want. We basically said we wouldn't design and create a new guitar if it wasn't sustainable. And at that time, people were basically cutting down an acre of rainforest to get to a tree that would have the right resonance to become a guitar. For Unilever, they engaged us to look at reductions of water consumption associated with laundry. So targeting basically on India and China, we studied extensively and came up with different ways to reduce the amount of water consumption in laundry through design and innovation. Very interesting. We set up 3 war rooms in London. We built these war rooms up with all the visuals that come out of Psycho-Aesthetics. And then each room had a group of about 12 people in it. So, PhD chemists, technologists, marketeers, upper management, and we all used those tools to brainstorm and came up with some truly brilliant ideas. Intel has sent us out a couple times to study markets, looking for what they can do in a market. And in this case, we're looking at manufacturing in Southeast Asia. And out of that came our proposal, including a full business plan, all out of the design and the Psycho-Aesthetics. And that created a new service-based unit for Intel. Pretty unique to use that methodology to actually create a business unit for such a large corporation. But in fact, that's what we did. And we found, white space, unaddressed needs, and then basically hypothesized and designed what the solution would be and looked at all the finances. Finita is a merger of a couple companies. Kelly was on the ground floor with me when we started a company called Loan Gifting. Loan Gifting was at that time solely focused on ways to create gifts for people to give to people with student debt. And then we merged that with another company that is doing assistance. I even created the name Finita. So, Fin from finance and Finita, it's kind of like done. It's interesting once you start building these portfolios of psychoaesthetics for an application, how names come up. Zebra, we engaged with them for decades. It started with a startup called Eltron. Eltron went public, merged with Zebra. Together, they were about 300 million in revenue. I think today they're just under 5 billion in revenue. And basically what we did is targeted the white space and understood the user experience completely with these barcode printers that print shipping labels. So you'll see these everywhere. We use it for Child Safety Network to rebrand them, which is a very old organization, 30-plus-year-old organization focused on children's safety, the largest in the country. Game Vice, we developed and innovated, understood how gaming was going to change. People were going to start using their phones as their gaming devices, and created a line of products for them. It's been very successful. Teddy Ruxpin wasn't so much psychoaesthetics as much as my insight into the human experience that drove Teddy Ruxpin. I don't know, for those of you who don't know what Teddy Ruxpin is, Teddy Ruxpin was the first animated toy to ever come out. The art of it was that there's over 100 mechanical parts inside of this. But to the outside, it looks just like a teddy bear. And so they were selling at a phenomenal rate. That was in 1985. And I think in 1985, they launched in August. They'd done almost $90 million in sales. That's, to the retailers. The next year, they did almost 300 million in sales. So if you look up Teddy Ruxpin, it's still in the market today. It's more of a digital version, but from 1985 to now is a long time to have something that's considered one of the most successful toys. And it was very interesting that we conceptualized, even how it would be sold. So we designed an end cap in Toys R Us, and the Teddy Ruxpin would just sit there, and we had a motion detector, and we just sit there like a regular teddy bear. And when you walk by it, it would open its eyes and all of a sudden say, "Hi, I'm Teddy Ruxpin," and people would just fall over. That's design. That's the user experience. We show how we applied it to Minimed. Minimed came to us when they were failing as a company. Minimed makes diabetic infusion pumps. They had come down from, I think, 70 million in sales to 30 million in sales. I'm forgetting the exact numbers. Out of desperation, they said, let's hire a design group and see what they think. And being, human-centered, what we did is that we needed to understand what it was like to be a diabetic wearing this pump 24/7. So we had catheters connected to our stomachs, and we pumped saline into us and became the diabetic for just under a week, 24/7. At that time, human-centered, what we saw was that when you ate a meal, if you ate pasta in a public setting, you had to take this out and give yourself a bolus of insulin to stimulate your pancreas. People stared at you like you were ill, and then you realize, oh my God, this overtly medical device just carries a stigma of illness with it. And so we transformed it at that time to look like a pager, a very elegant, cool pager. And so now No one noticed the little clear tube running down. It just looked like you're getting a page. Sales skyrocketed 3 years later. They're doing 270 million, and then they're acquired for $3.6 billion. The only change was the design and the user experience associated with the design. JBL engaged us on a multitude of things, but we used it for the Eon, which is their most famous speaker used by musicians and DJs, and communicated visually that this is a lightweight product and how to carry it. LifeTech, another great story. I'm going to show a little case study on LifeTech, on their global design language and how they engaged us and how we actually did that. Core One was the first BPA-free water bottle. We actually identified BPA as a health threat and convinced Eastman Plastics to develop a BPA-free plastics, which has become the standard and multi-billion-dollar business for them. Core One, we created all their water bottles and created their success. It became very viral. It's been put in many movies, including Iron Man, and without any placement fees. So those are the different cases that we'll talk about, and that I'm showing in the book. So it's challenged at times. I think C.K. Prahlad said it somewhat elegantly to me when he came to our office. And C.K., if you look him up, he was a rock star, considered #1 strategist in the world 2 years running. He said, well, you've probably put a name to something everyone does, or this is all just bullshit, but there's a chance that you might actually have something. So very profound, very direct. It was an honor to have him spend time with us, and it was an honor to get to know him. And you can look up some of the things that he did. Pointing his book Core Competencies is a very famous one. Bottom of the Pyramid is another famous book. Anyways, so it talked about creating or breaking down barriers. How do you get away from the sameness? How do you create effective tools? The thing is, it's time tested now. Been using Psycho-Aesthetics now from the early 90s, more really heavily in the late 90s. Time just, people tell you time flies. You just can't imagine how it really flies when you look back and say that I've been working this methodology for decades and decades. I'm going to talk a little bit about the visual tools and the time-tested tools. The understanding of visual tools is so important. We didn't know this, but we observed this phenomenon that as we started doing all of these deep dives in ethnography, and as we started visualizing them and mapping them, and we found that it's always a challenge to reduce complexity, to get to the essence, but also the visuals create a phenomenon of recall. And what it not only brings forward tacit knowledge in people who are new to your presentation or your collaboration, but it also is a tool for you to recall all the subtleties, the nuances, the details that in a presentation you might otherwise forget. Of course, creating associations, is just a deeper dive into how we relate to this, how we understand what we're doing, and of course, again, how we recall things, because we take in so much information when we start doing ethnography, and we start interviewing, we start incubating and thinking about this. And it wouldn't be unusual for us to only remember the most recent week or a couple of weeks, but these processes take months, in some cases years. And so having it all captured in visuals is really a phenomenon that I've observed and we've leveraged and we continue to leverage. And then the collaboration. The visuals bridge language, they bridge culture, and they bridge disciplines within an organization. There is no other common language within these collaborations other than a visual language. We have teams that we work with that we have to have interpreters for. We have all kinds of situations. We have executives who are short on time. In the visuals kind of concise it, bring it down. And again, when you're questioned about the hows and whys, the recall is great, but it also allows them and empowers them to really understand and evangelize, buy in, and support your collaboration, because the investment in innovation is so tremendous. And this is truly, 1%, 5% of the investment is made on the front end that can control the outcome of the other 95%, say, or in many cases will make or break a company. So the collaboration is so important all the way through the teams, between the creatives and engineering, between the software engineers and the firmware engineers and electronic engineers, and on and on and on, and all the way up the ladder. How do you get everyone to collaborate? Well, the visual language is how you do that. Just a quick overview of methodology. We always start with research, and I'll go through this quickly. I'm not going to go through all the detail because you can read that at any time. But you got to do your research. You've got to synthesize the research. What's so important is that how do you synthesize research? So many people do research, but then how is it synthesized? What do you do with that? And then we take it into what we call key attractors. You got to get somebody's attention first. You've got to be able to understand really what is going to motivate them. We lay the key attractors into the hero's journey. I'll talk a little bit more about the hero's journey. When you have all of that foundational work, then you start designing, collaborating, brainstorm, ideating, going through everything. And ultimately, all of this foundational work goes in and carries right through into the execution. The people who are executing have to buy in, they have to understand. And this was another weakness that we had seen over the decades, that if there's a handoff, in that handoff, if people don't have buy-in and ownership, they can change the nuance and the subtlety of the design intent and the insight into people's behavior. And it's very interesting to me that over the decades we've seen that the high quality of design is not driven by designers anymore. The high quality of design is driven by people who consume the designs. And people have a level of expertise in design that's phenomenal, and it's global. We've interviewed teenagers in Africa who can tell you about the design of Apple or Nike, and they can write an essay on it, and they can be pretty right. And then ultimately, what we're really doing through all this is looking at the moments of truth. So how do we create viral demand? This is the ultimate objective, I think, of any business today, is creating viral demand where the experience is so engaging, compelling, and rewarding that people want to share it. I want to watch how much time do I have, by the way?
An infinite amount of time.
Yeah, because
No, we can go till like I guess 9:30, whatever's we'll hang out till 11 o'clock Eastern easily. So yeah, after you're
Yep.
done. So
My voice will give out long.
okay, we'll keep you here, man. You're doing great. This is awesome.
So so when we talk about research, we always start with auxiliary research, desktop research. That's handy, it's easy. You've got to do that to start in many light cases. This is all you'll do. In many light cases, if you're doing a college thesis, you may only do this, or you may do this with a friends and family round. Um, you generate from that sometimes mood boards that help to drive the understanding of what the landscape looks like. And that again is a visual language. Design especially is so competitive. Innovation is so competitive. If you don't do this, you may very well land exactly where somebody's already been, or where someone else is now. So you got to do that. You got to do that desktop research. And we love to do primary research. So yes, we do ethnography. No, we don't do focus groups. If we do focus groups, that is more of a quant study. We'll do as risk mitigation after all the work is done. But what we'll do is typically we'll do interviews, and we'll develop stimuli and speak to people and really understand how and why they think about something, how or why they use something, how or why they dislike something. And so if you're just going to watch them, which we do, you're only going to get one sense of things. Part of the reasons we don't like doing focus groups on the front end is because of the dynamic of focus groups, that there's usually a leader. People tend to follow along with the leader. We were doing cordless phones a few years ago, and I'm watching the focus group. There's 10 people in the focus group. One person took the leadership role. They love everything about the phone, the look, the feel, everything about it. And then, of course, the client, to validate everything, has a question there. Would you buy this? And the leader of the group says, no, just no, I wouldn't buy this. And it felt just like dominoes. And being baffled and befuddled, I just kind of followed the person in the parking lot. I said, excuse me, I said, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. You loved everything about this cordless phone. I said, but you said absolutely not, you wouldn't buy it. I said, why is that? She says, well, I just got a new cordless phone 2 weeks ago. Why would I need another one? It's like, yeah, obviously you wouldn't need another one. But if you're interviewing someone, you can ask them why. Why is that? You don't have to chase them down in the parking lot. Anyways, just some tips. Identify the research goals. You got to generate quality discussion guides. That again is a collaboration. We just don't go in randomly. We document it. You can't ask leading questions, and we don't answer for people. And we do want to know, all the how, what, whys, whens, wheres, all of that, because you're really trying to get someone to think more deeply, as I said, and to really give you high quality answers. So yeah, you get to be a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old, kind of why. But it is so important. And being there relaxed with them. There's a couple slides of what things look like. This was some research that was done in the appliance area. So you see New York, Vancouver, Austin, Denver, I forgot where SME is. But the stimuli, the visuals. You see in the lower right just what the war room looked like with all of the information we gathered, and how do you sort that and synthesize that into meaning. It's pretty phenomenal to see a room like that. We ran out of pinup wall space. We had to actually use the windows. Synthesis. This is where I think a lot of people fall down, as I mentioned. A big part of synthesis is transforming those interviews and that research into personas. Personas aren't something that we invented. Personas go back, I think, into the 50s, into the software industry. So, what goes in? The ethnography, the demographics, the research, the analytics. More importantly, what comes out? A dashboard, in life scenarios, the triggers, the key attractors, which I'll talk about, a little bit more. A key change for us was when we stopped talking about pain points and need states and transformed them into help me statements. Again, being people-centric, we wanted to really identify what can we help them with? What can we do for them? Not just acknowledge that they have a problem with something, or that it's painful to use, or it's cumbersome, or it's filled with errors. So if it's filled with errors, the question is, how can we help them reduce the amount of errors? Some examples of personas. In this case, the doctor, what's important to them, what do they look like? In many cases, we get much deeper. We'll show what their earnings are, what kind of cars they drive. We want to know what this OBGYN doctor is like in her role as a physician, but we also want to understand who is she as a person. So developing the personas is so important. So we do archetypes. Sometimes that's all you can do, is do an archetype, and you don't have the ability to actually get in and do a deeper dive and build the personas. Out of those, we identify what are the key triggers. And then they just go simply from least important to most important. But we go from rational to emotional. So this is kind of a dashboard for looking at how do you sort this out? What are the actual triggers? What are the things that people are looking for? And then how do you weight them? Because you can't do all things equally. Here's another kind of visual. I talked a little bit about Unilever, and the visuals and the personas, and I think the quality of the presentation is so important. And so what you see here are the large boards were 6 foot tall posters that were mounted along with the personas. And that's what we had put in the rooms in London at Unilever. And I think there's 5 posters in each room. And what you see in the left are some of the devices. One of the innovations that came out of the brainstorm was wellness. Working with chemists in the room, we realized that you can actually add an additive to detergent because it's touching your skin. You can absorb it. So whether it's vitamins or whether it's anti-malaria or anti-mosquito, there's additives. The middle lower picture is interesting because as we were doing the brainstorms, and I was in the group that basically said, no rinse, no scrubbing, no wringing. And so we looked at and studied bucket washing, which is really the predominant way people wash in the world, right? They have a series of 5-gallon buckets, and one has soap, and then they rinse, and then they rinse again, and wring out, and then they rinse again. And as we're talking about that, how can we get it down to one bucket? PhD chemist out of Bangalore, India, said, I actually have a patent that I received, and we haven't used it, but I've created a flocculation pill that once you wash the clothes with the soap, you could drop this in, and if you continue to agitate, it'll coagulate all of the dirt and the detergent into a thin gel. And a thin gel you can actually put into your garden, and it'll just keep helping the plants grow because it'll help with the moisture in there. So we went from 5 buckets to a single bucket and actually created the concept of that. And with that, we developed a mini washing machine. I understand that this is still ongoing. This is just an example of kind of, day in the life, to hear the journeys of people and the boards that we used for Nissan, who engaged us to do Psycho-Aesthetics, to understand what is missing in their offering to the emerging female market at that time, who doesn't want an SUV and wants something much more than their boring sedans at the time. And we created understanding them in the night out, which is prominent now. We actually created the concept of that when you open the door, having lights in the bottom so it illuminates where you're going to step out, which is very psychological, kind of welcoming you onto the runway. The valet opens the door, you're going to a club, those types of things. Environmental changes of colors and things, stuff that you see today, we did for Nissan some time ago. So one of the key tools that I developed, and that is essential in this visualization, is a psychoaesthetic map. We started Maslow's hierarchy, and then we started evolving it, and we created a map that maps interactivity and gauge self-actualization. So we found that it's really incredible, and I'm going to show you much more about this. But if you pick up the deck and you read into this deck, or you see what's in the book, it'll give you a better understanding of the hows and whys psychoaesthetic mapping works. It's something that we just kind of had to have a solution, and we had to have a way to see the world through the eyes of the audience. And up to that point, we were only seeing through the eyes of the designers or the client. And in that case, the client might tell you their likes or dislikes, but their personal likes or dislikes. And the designer might give you a professional view of what their likes and dislikes are, but that's not necessarily correct. If you're doing surgery, you may not want the prettiest scalpel in the world. In fact, you probably don't. You want the most meaningful design. You want the most control. And in fact, in cases of scalpels, there's actually not much you can't change because they're so highly honed. So once we started mapping, we identified 4 quadrants: basic, versatile, artistic, and enriched. And I think I'll show this a little bit more when I talk about the actual application. But what we did is identify 4 examples: a paperclip, a skip loader, the Mona Lisa, and a sports car. And it's very people specific. But if we say what's low interactivity and low self-actualization, paperclip's a great example. It's great engineering, we all know it. It's mindless. We just think about it. You're not proud of using a paperclip. I hope not. And it's very passive, slow self-actualization. If we say a skip loader is eyes, ears, hands, feet, it's a tool, it's highly immersive, but it's not part of your personal identity. It's just a highly immersive tool that goes to the lower right, the vertical quadrant, the basic quadrants, the paperclip, and then the artistic quadrant. I say this Mona Lisa is a good example because you remember seeing it your whole life, and it is, self-actualizing, but you don't get to touch it, you don't get to feel it, which would be touching it. You don't get to really interact with it, but things like that, those types of experiences also have a ritual where you got to get to Paris and you've got to get a ticket and you've got to wait in line to get in the museum, and you've got to walk past 100 masterpieces before you wait in line again to get your 30 seconds if you really stand there a long time. There's a guard, it's behind rope, and it's behind glass, and it's probably not the real Mona Lisa, but it's good enough, and you remember it the rest of your life. And the enriched quadrant, upper right, is a sports car. It's got everything. It's got the color, it's got the feel, it's got the roar, it's got everything. So if we say phones in the US, basic phone you can get for free, which nobody gets. And then why do we go to the upper right? Why do I pay? Many of us pay, I don't know what we're up to, $1,300 for that phone. That it's in the enriched quadrant, becomes part of our persona. I drive out of the driveway and I get down the street to where I make a left turn, and my brain says part of you is missing, and I have to turn around and go get my phone. That's how enriched that experience is. But what's happened over time is people are going upper left, and they're looking for lower levels of interactivities with the same level of self-actualization. So along comes voice activation, right? How do we get things to happen without that? But it's people specific. So I was talking about this person my wife and I met in Africa. We're building bikes for World Bicycle Relief in Africa and giving them to village girls as a mode of transportation to get to school earlier. We met this gentleman. He lives in a mud hut, corrugated metal roof, no water, no electricity, no facilities. He has a job, delivers coal and hay, pushing around on this bicycle. Very proud person. Having a phone that has that core functionality changes his life. And that goes all the way upper right, like having the new iPhone, where are we, 15 now, whatever, to us. So it's all about understanding the people and how it applies to the people. So key attractors, this is part of the suite of tools that are so important. So as we break down the key attractors, we really need to say, what does that mean? How do you drive? That? What does ease of use mean? Secure carrying, easy to drink from, easy to hold. What do these things actually mean? What are the things, the boxes that you have to check to actually design something and create something that's meaningful? Another person we leveraged beyond Maslow was Joseph Campbell. So we leveraged Maslow's hierarchy, took it to another level. We leveraged Campbell in the hero's journey, and we took that to another level, right? Brilliant man, both of them. But the hero's journey is a universal truth in our eyes, that it's true in all cultures throughout time that these stories have emerged. In all great religion, they've emerged. What I said and what we use and what we profess that everyone should use, understanding the hero's journey, is a journey that everyone's on every day of their life, right? Everyone needs to be attracted. Everyone needs to be engaged with affirmations, micro affirmations to series of affirmations, to where you adopt a new idea, a new product, a new service, a new whatever. But there always has to be a moment of truth where either you're actualized in different ways. Maybe it's another person sees you, maybe you just use it and you beam with pride, but the goal is to then turn people into evangelists. and how do you get someone to speak about something. And again, this is how do you motivate someone to do something for themselves that they might otherwise not do. This is my most loved story about the hero's journey, is when we did probably one of the most mundane products we ever did, which was reinvent the can opener for a company named Xylus. And observing how to do it and having the experience of using a can opener, it's always a two-handed operation. You puncture the can, you hold the two handles together, and if you get distracted and you don't hold them together quite right, and you're turning it, all of a sudden you got to go back and do it all over again. And it really takes some focus and concentration. And what we did is just make the two handles click together when you puncture the can, made it ergonomic, you just turn the handle. You can watch TV, you can talk to someone, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do. It just comes down to muscle memory at that point, and it solved that problem. And I don't write reviews, but here are almost 35,000 reviews of a can opener. I mean, you gotta really love your can opener to go on to Amazon to write about it. It's probably my best example of creating viral demand. So here's the example in real life of Psycho-Aesthetics. This is what Life Technologies came to us with. As we built personas, and as you build personas, you can map them. You can understand what their attributes are, where they fall on the map. And then as you interview them, you find out where do they want to go. So whether it's the chief scientist to the technicians to the CMO, where do they want to go? And you visualize that and create an opportunity zone. As you look at the branding, you can lay out the competitive brands. And their main competitor, leader in the industry, is Illumina. Illumina is right in the opportunity zone. Our client is AB Applied Biosystems, prior to Life Technologies. They're in the lower right quadrant. It's like a mouthful, and it's complicated, and it's cumbersome, and it's not very self-actualizing. Illumina is just boom, beautiful, readable, understandable, and it stands for something. Also looking at the branding, we move Life Technologies into that opportunity zone by redesigning them to be more meaningful. So all the badging in the products became simple and elegant, and the actual word life floats between two plastic pieces and creates a true drop shadow. And now you've looked at people and you've looked at branding all in the same mapping, and now we look at the competitive landscape. Illumina at that time was in the artistic quadrant. Applied Biosystems, or now Life Technologies, was in the lower right. Their product looked like something repurposed from the 1980s, and looked, just exactly in the lower right quadrant. Other things looked basic. There wasn't much distinction. And Illumina was beautiful, but it didn't say it was the most meaningful, high-speed, state-of-the-art, versatile product. So we took that exact product and we moved into the opportunity zone, and we said, here is the exact same product in the opportunity zone, simply redesigned. So here's the before and here's the after of the exact same product. And we have many before and afters, but that's what the mapping does. First product that launched with the new design language was Iron Torrent. And that was part of the design language. Here's just an example of a 150-page global design guide for them. Life Technologies was a $5 billion market cap. 4 months after they launched the Iron Torrent with the new design language, but not because of the new design language. Boom, $15.6 billion. They're acquired by Thermo Fisher. So some last thoughts. As Einstein said, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. People always ask, and I never put this slide in before, that what are you working on now? So I just kind of went through our project list we're working on now. And I said, okay, I'll just list them out without naming names. We're revolutionizing medication delivery. Very exciting company. Their S1 will go public, I think, next week. And they will go public on the New York within a month, I believe, after that. We're working on rapid stroke diagnosis, meaning that you can actually diagnose the type, location, size of a stroke within minutes. We're working on men's prostate health. We're working on new DNA sequencing. We're working on commercial, meaning office water filtration systems. We're working on food transportation. We're working on the AI and the UI UX for burned and wound diagnosis and prediction of how long it'll take to heal that wound. We've reinvented the hookah, which is a 5-year project that basically eliminates all the carcinogens associated with charcoal and makes it into kind of an espresso pod solution. It's actually, we've gotten patents in 110 countries on that innovation we created. We're working on commercial beverage systems, hard cryoablation, on golf training, on cellular range enhancement for cell phones that'll enhance the range of your phone by putting on the back by, I think, 10x. Not-for-profit branding and dental health care. So in case anybody asks what we're working on now, that's kind of the list that we're working on. And then, that's what the book looks like. There's links to it. If you search hard enough, you'll find some typos. After editing it, having outside editors review it, and us reviewing it, and everybody else reviewing it 500 times, there's still some typos that are getting fixed. I don't know where they are yet. People who found them haven't told me yet, but it's a pretty comprehensive book, and it ends with really showing how do you do a sprint. So how do you integrate it into lean processes? And that's it.
Ravi, thank you. This is a real pleasure. Folks, if you have any questions for Ravi, please raise your Zoom hands. I would like to start off with a question. How do you see, I mean, look, we're in the age of AI. How do you see generative AI fitting into your design process in psychoaesthetics? Are there specific aspects of this methodology where you think AI can effectively replicate, enhance, augment, replace, or transform?
It's definitely transformative, and it's definitely enhancing psychoaesthetics. I mean, you can ask AI to build you a persona if you put the right information in.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give you the insight into the how and why people think, but it takes you in new directions, and it opens you up. Will it ever get to the level where it will spit out a design? I think it will. I think it will, but again, if and I don't read a lot because I seem to write a lot and read a lot of emails, but reading in the past books like Blink, the human mind can't always articulate the sensitivities that they realize and feel in that visceral feeling of when something's synthetic and when something's real. And I believe that lives both in imperfection of experience, and which makes each experience slightly unique for each person, but it also lives in the subtlety and the detail of how things are resolved and refined. And so if you're going to mimic the Apple iPhone and you're going to ask it to do that and say, I want to create a thermometer that looks just like the iPhone, AI is probably going to do that for you.
Right.
But that's not a space that we live in. We're not in the styling business. But it definitely, we're using it. and it's helpful. We just use it on a big branding exercise where we did all of our research, our online research. We plugged it into AI. It spit out ideas. We put those up on the wall, and then that triggered, really innovative design that we sketched up and drew. So it's interesting. It's evolving, but will it be able to, truly be intelligent? I don't know that it will be in innovation and design. I think more vulnerable disciplines could be music, could be levels of levels of things where the audience may not be as sensitive to the subtleties. But we'll see.
Okay. I'll debate you on that one. I take the other side of that. I do think it will be able to do the innovation, especially the innovation, and building on top of what it's been trained on, and what additional information they're provided.
I'd love to see relevant innovation.
Oh, okay. Well, so again, in what use case is definitely up there. Yeah, the relevant innovation. Adolfo, you got your hand up.
Thanks, Ravi. That's fantastic. It's been an eye-opener for me. I have a question about the process, the process overview that you showed. How linear is it in real life, or are there loops where you need to iterate and correct and continue going? Can you talk a little bit about kind of the challenges that you face when you follow the process?
Yeah, it is. I guess it's both linear and nonlinear, because you as new information comes in, new developments happen, you many times have to circle back. The PA mapping, for example, is a living document. And as new criteria, new thinking comes in, you adjust the map and you go back. Same thing with key attractors and things. It's fluid. It has to be fluid, but you have to also have a compass. So you think of you think of that diagram or any of this as soft science, as a compass, not a roadmap. But without it, we don't even have a compass. So yeah, it is iterative. It is and it's fluid. It's not a mandate. And in some cases you jump around. Some cases the first thing we'll do out of the gate, without even doing any of the research at all, we'll just take a gut polling and start putting up PA maps of what people think within the organization. Just kind of, what's your gut tell you? Where do you think this is? And then you start doing all the research, and it's a worthwhile exercise, as a gut check. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're 80% right or 50% right, but it's non-linear in that way.
Right. Thank you, Ravi. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Adolfo. Susan.
This is just wonderful, Ravi, and thank you for coming back. Like so many questions, but I'll start with one about kind of the people side of things. So you've talked a lot about you're looking at product, but what do you think, and how might you apply your process and I'm speaking about my company now, if what your product does is actually really helping teams and people to become more productive and more functional. So how does your process apply if the product itself is actually the human engine?
Boy, that's a great question, and based on how it's worked as a team builder has really been incredible, because it takes unique disciplines of people and really pulls them together. And it's it's somewhat leveling. So if the objective is to build a stronger team, and we're starting to do this more and more for teams, is that a 2 or 3 day experience of being together and taking even a hypothetical and working it through really evolves the team to think in new and different ways, but relevant ways. And you know, it is transformative in that way, that everyone who goes through a project, even with us, and learns all this, they start to pick up bits and pieces. Now, you know, and you know, if you only pick up one tool or the other, you're going to be better off than you were before. Some people naturally adopt a lot of the tool set, and some people just like align with the tool set. But it is a great experience, and we've done it with universities, you know, with Cal State Northridge. We had the chair of every department and the dean of every department come together to really understand what the university is about, and how do we evolve the university. And yeah, that's a very very large school that I don't know what it's like, 35,000 full-time students, with a very diverse population of students. I think it's one of the most diverse universities in the country. And so, you know, and those are people who don't usually talk to each other. You know, they live in their own silos, which is very common. But you know, it pulls everyone together. You know, and it's interesting also with the personas. As you build personas, it's like, hey, yeah, you know, that's like my brother-in-law. You know, that's, you know, you start to relate to it on a very personal level. And that's that bringing forward that tacit knowledge, and that ultimately is the hero's journey, right? If you can put your own team through a process that we attract them, we engage them, we give them something new that they adopt, and then they take it back with them and share it with others, they're on the hero's journey, right? And I think we're all on the hero's journey every day of our life.
That is so true, and would love to talk to you more about that whole topic. That would be super cool.
Well, happy to.
Thanks, Susan. We'll go to Cardam and then Garrett.
Actually, really what I wanted to share was just a reiteration of what you just said, and from bringing in my own experience. I think, you know, I spent in my 15 years at Salesforce, my last assignment started with the acquisition of a design services firm. And I have to give Mark Benioff a lot of credit for really having realized that human-centered design in the design of business change is essential. And exactly what you just talked about bringing people through a process to design the change they want to see. There's nothing like the actual process, and it takes usually multiple days because people have to synthesize what they share the first day and hear from others. So really the role that this can play in business transformation and human change for business transformation is immense, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, when we do it, and we have large groups, so we do break into, you know, rooms of 10 people, rooms of 8 people, and you know, and it becomes so much fun because at the end of 3 days, or 2 days, 2 days is a little short, but you know, at the end of it, everyone does their elevator pitch of how and why, how they see the world, why they see the world, who they're addressing, and you know, they compete, you know, and you know, the one person from the group will get up and do the pitch of the group, and they do the elevator pitch, and it's just an absolute blast.
It's
so
an emotional experience for people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I will say the other insight that So it's very interesting because Mark set out, he was like, I want to buy IDEO. And of course, Tim Kelly was like, no, that's not happening. So Mark was like, what can we do to bring in the values and learnings from an IDEO-like process into Salesforce? But importantly, he actually brought it in not to use on Salesforce, but he just had the group do projects with customers for no charge, because ultimately he saw that it was helping companies learn to change themselves by learning a process like this.
Wonderful. That's great to know.
Thanks, Carter. Garrett.
So one of the things I was wondering, because you said that you started this company, it was in the 80s or so, and aside from everything that your company does, more focusing on your perspective, you've had a lot of experience in this field, just going from being in the design aspect of it, but then also now being a CEO and running the whole show. What is one of the most important lessons that you've learned along the way that you can share with us that could potentially help everyone in this group?
I mean, besides you don't know what you don't know. I would say nobody's asked me that specific question, but I would have to say it is that the ultimate lesson is probably what I said before, that design is a tool to motivate people to do things that they might otherwise not do for themselves. And that has kind of been, a common thread for me going back to the 1970s that I've always carried with me. That if people are left to their own demise, they probably won't do anything. There's risk in doing something new. And even if it's beneficial, Minimed diabetic infusion pump, extended the length and quality of life of diabetics, and they're returning it away, right? They're refusing to use it, and so, how do you motivate people and reward people? And, all this process combined with great talent and great empathy and great sensitivities is really all about the human experience. And that's, and the human experiences that we all want to evolve and become something more tomorrow than we are today. But we have to give people the tools to do that.
And while you were, building your company, you hire staff, and did you find that you had to have like a specific type of mentor or experience level to kind of transition from being really good at design, but now also be able to run this company that you built and scale it?
I have no shortage of mentors. And sometimes I'll just walk across to Kelly's house and bang on Kelly's door. I might not even text him if he's home. I just like, Kelly, I need your take on this. What do you think about this or that? I'm very open, and I tend to ask the right people the right questions. And one of the gifts I've had in life is that I've had really incredible people that I've connected with, and they're people like to help. Again, we're all on the hero's journey, and I'm pretty open about helping or mentoring anybody that I can as well. But yeah, there's mentors and mentors and mentors and mentors, and there's lots of mistakes. When I started, I had never run a business, and I entered a field where people who had started design firms all came with a network of people they'd worked with in a corporation that moved into other companies. You know, I met a person who was giving a lecture on sales and gave this one tool. He says, take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and number from 100 to 1. You know, 50 in one column, 50 in the other, and start making phone calls and working through that list. And by the time you get to the bottom of the list, you'll have business. I said, okay, you know, that's what I did. I think I got to I got down. I think I made seven sales calls, and by the seventh one, you know, I couldn't make any more sales calls because I had more work than I knew what to do with.
That's awesome. That's really good insight. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I should have patented that. The numbering system, the cold calling sequence.
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks, Garrett. Kelly Kimball.
Robbie?
Hi,
First of
Kelly.
all, I've already got the book. Thank you, Robbie. It is beautifully designed. So anybody who wishes or thinking about ordering it, it just you know, obviously Robbie's in the design world, so he had to design this in a way that honored the subject matter. But it's absolutely a gorgeous book. You're not going to find anything like this out there. Robbie, the methodologies, the psychoaesthetics methodologies are so similar in when we as entrepreneurs and starting business go through customer discovery, go through our minimum viable product market fit. Have you thought about sort of modifying the concept, if you will, to apply to the design of businesses as opposed to the design of products? Do you see that overlap? It seems so evident to me. So this is something that I mean, to the point where I give this book away, you know, in the class that we do every year at Cal Lutheran in entrepreneurship, because I think there's so much overlap that I see in this. But I'm wondering if you see it as well in that regard.
It over time, you know, Kelly, it's grown to where we're using the tools for business strategy.
Mhm.
And you know, beyond what we did for Intel, the level of business strategy that is, of course, focused around, you know, the point of monetization is ultimately what's going to make that business run. But you know, the answer is yes, and I think more and more that's going to evolve. I guess if I was going to do another book, I'd probably do it with you and do it just about using these types of tools for business innovation. But the answer is yes. You know, I never imagined I would be so heavily involved in an IPO as, you know, as a design strategist and fundraising. You know, I'm involved in one IPO, one that's not going to IPO for a couple of years, but that's in heavy fundraising now, and then I think 3 others that are all in fundraising and business strategy. In one case, you know, I basically whiteboarded and used my experience to whiteboard a complete restructuring of a company that's in the dental healthcare business, and we did a complete restructure of that company. You know, and yeah, it's you know, it's the same tools, but yeah, you just kind of evolve your thinking. I never imagined I'd be whiteboarding or advising, you know, advising a client on, you know, how they integrate my firm into their you know, their listing profile and their SEC, their S1. You know, but I'm on the phone advising them while they're on the phone with the SEC as they're modifying the S1. And it's all about, the specifics of business and strategy and creating value and purpose. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the future, because I don't think I'm like you, Kelly. I don't think I'm ever gonna stop. I don't think I'm capable of stopping.
No, the problem with that is we live next to each other, we'll get bored, and we'll just hang out together all day.
That's good too.
No downside to that, I guess, but it could cause trouble. Considering you're the guy who has the parties where the police come to. Ravi, have you thought about it looks like a lot of this stuff could be made into an app as well. Have you thought about automating this to any extent? Is it possible?
It is. It is very possible to build an app that facilitates all of the tools. And I probably need to explore that with a partner to do that. But it is a natural to develop it into an app and a service, because it's, the tools are there. You make them digital, you make them interactive, you make them shareable, and they could evolve very, very quickly. And they could integrate with AI and so many of the different pieces when we go from analog to actual digital, and yeah, that would be exciting.
Hey, Ravi, Cardam just put in the Zoom chat, what digital collaboration tools do you typically use in this process today?
Oh, me personally, the team uses a multitude of tools, but I think they're pretty much the standard, chat and whatever those new animations are, and ones that generate imagery, and I just get to walk over and see what they've created with it. But I can tell you that they're picking up any tool they can, because they're eyes on the ball. So they've got no resistance to picking up any of the AI tools, and they'll just keep picking them up. What they don't pick it up for is form generation. We've dabbled with that years ago, and with Autodesk, wanted us to do a project with them for form generation, and they've done it successfully, and it creates well-engineered functional designs. In some cases, it creates designs that you can't manufacture by any other means other than digital printing, which gets really interesting. So you don't have the limitations of manufacturability that you have in high production products. Does it have that visceral connection with people? That'll come at different levels. But one of the things we learned when we did the guitars, which was, it took us years to develop a guitar that had a sound that penetrated your soul, and a great guitar sound, especially an electric guitar, it reaches inside of you. And that took a huge amount of prototyping and experimentation to get that visceral, that the ability to go from a jazz sound to this deep rock and roll sound. But in each case, those sounds bypass our logic and our reasoning and go right into our emotional side of our brain. And that's a hard space to live in. But when you hit it, people know it. They know it when they see it, feel it, hear it. They also know when it's wrong.
Seems like knowing when it's wrong is easier than getting it right.
Yeah, there's a million ways to get it wrong, and maybe a handful of ways to get it right.
Awesome. Ravi, thank you so much. Susan,
Yeah, Ravi, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think there's a lot of good follow-ups out of this, and love the idea of you and Kelly writing a book together. Awesome, Kelly. Yeah.
Maybe we'll
And
do the app.
and your intro can be how Kelly broke you out of jail for your wild party where the police came. But anyway, thank you so much. And so always a question we ask people is, what can we do to help you?
What can you do to help me?
Mhm.
Oh, just keep doing what you guys are doing. You're doing a great job, and you know, just keep doing what you're doing. I think this is phenomenal, and you know, it helps the person who's speaking, because every time you speak about what you're doing, you know, you grow some, and the questions help you grow, and just articulating and building a presentation, you know, helps you grow and think about what you're doing. You know, it's you know, building a presentation that you're going to present over an hour takes, you know, takes a lot of hours. Put a lot of thought into it, and it helps you, you know, as you do it. You know, you have to really think. You have to think about the audience, and you got to think about who you are and what you do. So it's all great. It's all helpful.
Well, it was wonderful. And thank you again from all of us. This was terrific. And we would love to have you back again sometime to hear kind of the next place you go to in your journey as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we might have some good stories in the next year. So
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you. It
Ravi,
was terrific.
All right,
Ravi, thank you so much. I'm gonna end the recording here. Please, everyone, do stick around for some overtime. And just as a little reminder, next week, Christy Jenkins, you're not gonna want to miss it. Thanks for coming, and do please fill out that survey at the end. See you next week.